Indo-Islamic architecture. In the 7th and the 8th centuries, CE Islam spread towards Spain and India. Islam came to India particularly with Muslim merchants, traders, holy men and conquerors over a passage of 600 years. Although by the 8th century CE, Muslims had begun to construct in Sindh, Gujarat, etc., it was only in early 13th century that the large-scale buildings activity was begun by the Turkish state, established after the Turkish conquest of northern India. By the 12th century, India was already familiar with monumental constructions in grandiose settings. Certain techniques and embellishments were prevalent and popular, such as trabeation, brackets and multiple pillars to support a flat roof or a small shallow dome. While arcs were shaped in wood and stone, these were unable to bear the weight of the top structure. Now, however, the arcuate form of construction was introduced gradually in which arcs could support the weight of the domes. Such arcs needed to be constructed with voussoirs and fitted with keystones. The domes resting on pendentives squinches enable spanning of large spaces, leaving the interiors free of pillars. A noteworthy aspect of these migrations and conquests was that Muslims absorbed many features of local cultures and traditions and combined them with their own architectural practices. Thus, in the field of architecture, a mix of many structural techniques, stylized shapes and surface decorations came about through constant interventions of acceptance, rejection or modification of architectural elements. These architectural entities or categories showcasing multiple styles are known as Indo-Saracenic or Indo-Islamic architecture. According to E.B. Howell, Hindus conceived manifestations of God everywhere in multiple forms as part of their religious faith, whereas a Muslim thought of only one, with Muhammad as his prophet. Hence, Hindus adorned all surfaces with sculptures and paintings. Muslims, forbidden to replicate living forms on any surface, developed their religious art and architecture consisting of the arts of arabesque, geometrical patterns and calligraphy on plaster and stone. Typologies of structures. Keeping in mind religious and secular necessities, architectural building like mosques for daily prayers, the Jama Masjid, tombs, dargahs, minars, hammams, formally laid out gardens, madrasas, sarais or caravansarais, minars, etc. were constructed over a period of time. These were thus additions in the existing type of buildings in the subcontinent. Architectural edifices in the Indian subcontinent or elsewhere in the world were constructed by wealthy people. They were in descending order: rules and nobles and their family, merchants, merchant guilds, rural elite and devotees of a cult. In spite of the obvious Saracenic, Persian and Turkish influences, Indo-Islamic structures were heavily influenced by prevailing sensibilities of Indian architectural and decorative forms. A lot depended on the availability of materials, limitations of resources and skills, and the sense of aesthetics of patrons. Although religion and religiosity were very important to people of medieval India as elsewhere. Categories of style. The study of Indo-Islamic architecture is conventionally categorized into the imperial style, the provincial style, Gujarat, the Mughal style, and the Deccan style. These categories help in understanding better the specificities of architectural styles rather than putting them to immutable slots. Decorative forms. These forms included designing on plaster through incision or stucco. The designs were either left plain or covered with colors. Motifs were also painted on or carved in the stone. These motifs included varieties of flowers both from the subcontinent and places outside, particularly Iran. The lotus bud fringe was used to great advantage in the inner curves of the arcs. Walls were also decorated with cypress, chinar and other trees, as also with flower vases. Many complex designs of flower motifs decorating the ceilings were also to be found on the textiles and carpets. Architectural influences. Amongst provincial styles, the architecture of Bengal and Jaunpur is regarded as distinct. Gujarat was said to have a markedly regional character, for patrons borrowed elements from regional temple traditions such as toranas, lintels and mihrabs, carvings of bell and chain motifs, and carved panels depicting trees for tombs, mosques and dargahs. The 15th century white marble dargah of Sheikh Ahmad Khattu of Sarkhej is a good example of provincial style, and it heavily influenced the form and decoration of Mughal tombs. In the 14th, 15th and the 16th centuries, tiles were also used to surface the walls and the domes. Popular colors were blue, turquoise, green and yellow. Subsequently, facellation and pietra dura were made use for surface of decoration, particularly in the dado panels of the walls. At times, lapis lazuli was used in the interior walls or on canopies. Other decorations included arabesque, calligraphy in high and low relief carving, and a profuse use of jalis. The high relief carving has three-dimensional look. The arches were plain and squat and sometimes high and pointed. From the 16th century onwards, arches were designed with trefoil to multiple foliations. Spandrels of the arch were decorated with medallions or bosses. The root was a mix of central dome and other smaller domes, chhatris and tiny minarets. The central dome was topped with an inverted lotus flower motif and a metal or stone panache. Materials for construction. The walls in all buildings were extremely thick and very largely constructed of rubble masonry, which was easily available. These walls were then cased over with chunam or limestone plaster or dressed stone. An amazing range of stones were utilized for construction, such as quartzite, sandstone, buff, marble, etc. Polychrome tiles were used to great advantage to finish the walls. From the beginning of the 17th century, bricks were also used for the construction, and these imparted greater flexibility to the structures. In this phase, there was more reliance on local materials. Forts. Building monumental forts with embattlements was a regular feature in medieval times, often symbolizing the seat of power of a king. When such a fort was captured by an attacking army, the vanquished ruler either lost his complete power or his sovereignty. This was because he had to accept the suzerainty of the victorious king. Some examples of strong complex edifices which still exercise the imagination of the visitor are the forts of Chittor, Walia, Daulatabad, earlier known as Devagiri, and Golconda. Commanding heights were utilized to great advantage to construct forts. These heights gave a good perspective of the region's strategic advantage with security, unfettered and unhindered space to make residential and official complexes while simultaneously creating a sense of awe in the people. Other complexities woven into such topography were concentric circles of outer walls as in Golconda, so that the enemy had to breach these at all stages before getting in. Daulatabad had several strategic devices to confound the enemy, such as staggered entrances so that gates could not be opened even with the help of elephants. It also had twin forts, one within the other, but had a higher elevation and accessed by a complex defense design arrangement. One wrong turn in the labyrinth or complex pathway could lead to the enemy soldier going in circles or falling to his death. The Warrior Fort was invincible because its steep height made it impossible to scale. It had many habitations and usages. Babur, who did not find much merit in many things he saw in Hinduism, was said to have been overawed at the sight of Warrior Fort. Chittorgarh bears the distinction of being the largest fort in Asia and was occupied for the longest length of time as the seat of power. It has many types of buildings including stambhas or towers to signify victory and bravery. It was replete with numerous water bodies. Innumerable acts of heroism have been associated with the principal people in the fort, forming the substance of many a legend. An interesting aspect associated with forts is that within the palace, complex stylistic and decorative influences were absorbed most liberally. Minars. Another form of stamba or tower was the minar, a common feature in the subcontinent. Two most striking minars of medieval times are the Qutub Minar in Delhi and the Chand Minar in Daulatabad Fort. The everyday use of the minar was for the azan or call of prayer. The phenomenal height, however, symbolized the might and power of the ruler. The Qutub Minar also came to be associated with the much revered saint of Delhi, Khwaja Qutubuddin Bakhtiyar Kaki. The Qutub Minar, built in the 13th century, is the 234 feet high tapering tower divided into 5 stories. The minar is a mix of polygonal and circular shape. It is largely built of red and buff sandstone and some use of marble in the upper stories. It is characterized by highly decorated balconies and bands of inscriptions intertwined with foliated designs. Chand Minar, built in the 15th century, is a 210 feet high tapering tower divided into 4 stories. Painted peach now, its facade once boasted of chevron patterning on encaustic tilework and bold bands of Quranic verses. Although it looked like an Iranian monument, it was the combined handiwork of local architects with those from Delhi and Iran. Tombs. Monumental structures over graves of rulers and royalty was a popular feature of medieval India. Some well-known examples of such tombs are those of Ghayasuddin Tughlaq, Humayun, Abdur Rahim Khan-e-Khanan, Akbar and Itmaduddullah. According to Anthony Welch, the idea behind the tomb was eternal paradise as a reward for the true believer on the day of judgment. This led to the paradisiacal imaginary for tomb construction. Beginning with the introduction of Quranic verses on the walls, the tomb was subsequently placed within paradisiacal elements such as a garden or near a body of water or both, as in the case of the Taj Mahal. Surely though, such vast expanses of structured and stylized spaces could not have been intended only to signify peace and happiness in the next world, but to also showcase the majesty, grandeur and might of the person buried there. Sarais. A hugely interesting feature of medieval India was the sarais, which arranged cities and dotted the vast space of the Indian subcontinent. Sarais were largely built on a simple square or rectangular plan and were meant to provide temporary accommodation to Indian and foreign travellers, pilgrims, merchants, traders, etc. In effect, sarais were public domains which thronged with people of varied cultural backgrounds. This led to cross-cultural interaction, influences and syncretic tendencies in the cultural modes of the times and at the level of the people. Structures of common people. One of the architectural features of medieval India was also a coming together of styles, techniques and decorations in public and private spaces of non-royal sections of the society. These included buildings for domestic usage, temples, mosques, conquests and dargahs, commemorative gateways, pavilions in buildings and gardens, bazaars, etc. Early Muslim architecture. After Muhammad Ghori returned to Aybak, established himself as the ruler of Delhi and almost immediately commenced work on the earliest extant mosque on the Indian soil, the Quwwat-ul-Islam Mosque, which is the core of famous Qutb complex south of New Delhi. Qutb-ud-Din had neither the time nor the resources to import artisans, masons and architects from his native Afghanistan. In his haste to build, Qutb-ud-Din had blocks of stones, columns and lintels removed from existing Hindu and Jain temples in the area and had them reorganized around a rectangular court, haphazardly assembling the essential rudiments of a mosque at a site he had chosen. Alauddin Khilji, who ruled in the early 14th century, built the city of Siri near the Qutb complex. Though almost nothing of Siri has survived, his Alai Darwaza at the Qutb complex marks the beginning of the process of refinement of a basic module of Muslim architecture. Once this basic module had been perfected and the new technological principles of the true arc in the dome understood by Hindu builders, this module could be assembled in varying combinations to build mosques, tombs, places, markets in the entire cities. Tughlaq architecture. The Tughlaqs, who ruled Delhi from AD 1320 to 1413, endowed their cities with genuine Muslim flavors. This is clearly evident in the fortress cities of Tughlaqabad and Firoz Shah Kotla, founded by Ghayasuddin and Firoz Shah respectively. They made deliberate attempt to combine the principle of the arc and beam in their buildings. House Khas and Kotla built by Firoz Tughlaq are the fine examples of it. The Tughlaqs were also responsible for creating a rather militant style of architecture, characterized by sloping, fortress-like walls studded with buttresses and circular pylons. Turkish architecture. The Turks used the arch and dome on a wide scale. The style of decoration was in accordance with their religious beliefs. No human or animal figures were used since it was considered to be Islamic. They used scrolls of flowers and geometrical forms in verses of Quran Sharif, which were intertwined in a very artistic manner. The Turkish rulers used both the dome and arc method and the slab and beam method in their buildings. They also freely borrowed Hindu motifs such as the bell motif, swastika, lotus, etc. The Turks added color to their buildings by using red sandstone. They also used yellow sandstone or marble. In Gujarat and its environs, however, the Muslim rulers seem to have been completely swamped by the artistic skills of the local Jain and Hindu craftsmen. In sharp contrast, in the south, Muslim immigrant well-versed in Persian technology arrived by sea, and building activity in this region displays a strong structural bias. Beginning with the large mosque at Gulbarga, this tradition culminated in the building of the famous Gol Gumbaz at Bijapur, the last dome of its time. Meanwhile, the Sayyid and the Lodi dynasty held nominated sway over the cities of Agra and Delhi in the north, and during their rule, the dominance of Muslim structural techniques were well established with the construction of massive boat-nail-shaped domes over the numerous tombs built at Delhi by the Lodi rulers, whose buildings had virtually turned Delhi into a royal necropolis. Lodi architecture. During this period, both the arch and the lintel and beam were used. Besides balconies, kiosks and caves of the Rajasthani Gujarati style were also used. Another device used by the Lodis was placing their buildings, especially tombs, on high platforms, thus giving the buildings a feeling of size as well as a better skyline. Some of the tombs were placed in the midst of the gardens, example Lodi Garden. Some of the tombs were of octagonal shape. Mughal India. During the reign of Babur, magnificent forts, palaces, gates, public buildings, mosques, baoulis, etc. were built. There were many formal gardens with running water. Use of running water in palaces and pleasure resorts was a special feature of the Mughal architecture. Dome, arch, perforated jail work, inlay decoration, artistic calligraphy were the other special features of the architecture of the period. Nishan Bagh in Kashmir, Shalimar in Lahore and Pinjore Garden in the Punjab foothills are the gardens laid out by the Babur. The Mughal Empire, however, was founded as much on Babur's endeavours as a genius of the great Afghan ruler Sher Shah, who forced Babur's son Humayun to relinquish Delhi and rule the land for a fruitful 15 years. He contributed handsomely to architectural traditions, while the balanced perfection of the Qila Kuhana Masjid in the Purana Qila at Delhi became the prototype upon which the Mughals developed their structure. His tomb at Sasaram in Bihar and was indeed a fitting climax to the series of octagonal tombs erected by the Tughlaqs and the Lodis. Its builder Aliwal Khan conceived a fine elevation unity of the square, the octagon and the sphere. With the arrival of Akbar on the Indian scene, an era of unparalleled building activity began. Under his benevolent, powerful guidance, all that was best in the building tradition of India came to life. During Akbar's rule, Persian ideas were blended with Hindu and Buddhist traditions to produce a style as unique as electric as the personality of Akbar. This is seen as its best in Humayun's tomb at Delhi, in the numerous structures at Akbar's new capital city of Fatehpur Sikri, and at his own tomb at Sikandra in Agra. Fatehpur Sikri is a palace fort complex. It includes many buildings in the style of Gujarat and Bengal. The mixture of styles, both Hindu and Muslims, were given unity by the material used for all the buildings, red sandstone quarried from a very ridge on which the city was erected. Another contribution of Akbar to the Indian architecture is the Red Fort at Agra, built of red sandstone. It has many magnificent gates. The Wani Am and the Wani Khas were added to it by Shah Jahan. The Jahangir Mahal in the fort is a fine building attributed to Akbar himself. Panch Mahal, built by Akbar, is a 5-storied structure of open pavilions. All types of pillars used in various temples were employed to support its flat roofs. The Buland Darwaza is another significant contribution of Akbar. It is a 170 feet high structure which commemorates Akbar's triumphal return from his Deccan campaign. The style in which it was built was called half-dove portal. A dome was sliced into half. The sliced portion provided the massive outward facade of the gate, while smaller door could be made in the rear wall where the dome and the floor met. The style, borrowed from the Iran, later became a common feature in Mughal buildings. Akbar's son Jahangir was not a prolific builder, preferring to express his creativity in the laying out of numerous Mughal gardens and in replacing the dignified austerity of Akbar's sandstone architecture with the flamboyance and luster of pure white marble. An outstanding contribution of Jahangir to Indian architecture is the tomb of Akbar at Sikandrabad. Towards the cut of Jahangir's reign began the practice of putting up building entirely of marble and decorative walls with floral designs made of semi-precious stones. This method of decoration is called Pitradura. It became more popular under Shah Jahan. Shah Jahan was a passionate builder in sandstone and marble, and so he took the traditions of Mughal architecture to their climatic best in the famous Taj Mahal at Agra. But before the Taj was built, Shah Jahan's craftsmen had mastered the use of marble as a building material in structures such as the Wani Khas and the Wani Am, the halls of private and public audience, and the Moti Masjid, a pearl mosque at the Agra fort. The Taj Mahal was placed at the head of the garden rather than its center, creating a rich dimension of depth and perspective to the first view of this perfectly proportioned edifice. The four minarets that surrounded the central structure provide a spatial frame for the arched facade and the soaring dome. There are minimum decorations, delicate marble screens, pietra dura inlay work, and kiosks adding to the effect. The double dome is another feature of the building. It was designed by the Persian Ustad Isa. With the growing wealth of the empire, Shah Jahan laid out the splendid city of Shah Jahanabad at Delhi. For the devoid, there is perfectly proportioned Jama Masjid just opposite the fort. This mosque, the Taj Mahal, and the palaces of Shah Jahan in the Red Fort at Delhi are proof of the swan song of Muslim architecture in India. Jama Masjid is built in red sandstone. A lofty gate, tall slender minarets, and a series of domes are its important features. Moti Masjid in Agra Fort, which is built like the Taj, entirely in marble, is another example of Shah Jahan's passion for the use of marble in buildings. The Mughal Empire continued under the orthodox rule of Shah Jahan's son Aurangzeb for another 60 years. However, under his austere rule, no great work of art or architecture was created, and with the disintegration of the Mughal Empire, the focus once again shifted to regional centers such as Oudh in present-day Uttar Pradesh, where a rather florid style based on the whims of ruler rather than any architectural principles emerged. Sarf Darjang's tomb was built by Nawab Shuja-ud-Dawla of Awadh. Gol Gumbaz was built by Sultan Muhammad Adil Shah of Bijapur. The foundation of Golden Temple was laid by Guru Ram Das and completed by his son Arjun Dev.